I'm so excited.
Of the 20th century because of his black and white artwork. He worked long hours in the darkroom to create dramatic nature photos, especially Yosemite. This is a famous picture taken by Ansel Adams. He said, "Our lives at times seem a study in contrast, everything seen in absolutes of black and white. Too often we are not aware that it is the shades of gray that add depth and meaning to the starkness of those extremes." This picture was taken by Adams at Banner and Ritter Peaks near Mammoth Lakes. This picture of Mono Lake was taken by Adams in 1947. We can also see Black Point in this video. In this video, I will be showing Ansel Adams working in his darkroom from a 4x5 rather than roll negatives. And he's going to be counting in the video, and it's controlling the exact timing of the development process.
Dust brushed off the negative. Here goes for a test exposure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The image is coming up quite well balanced.
Adams developed many techniques in the darkroom to intensify the darks and lights. We can see the results of Adams' invention that he used in the darkroom. If we printed one of his negatives in Costco, it would look like A. And B, it's defined and more intense. This is Ansel Adams' son, Michael, and Michael's wife, Jeannie, who are interviewed in October. They talked about Mr. Adams' passion for photography and how he changed the art of it. He did this by the black and white technique that he used. And here's a quote by Michael. "Not everything can be proven in a straight photograph, and Ansel would always try to show everything in one picture." Jeannie Adams said, "Ansel has changed the art form of photography by his recognition for beauty." Ansel Adams developed techniques that influence photographers today. Here we can see how regular photographers use the darkroom. And to give a definition, the darkroom is a room for developing pictures. They have to be in the dark because if light interferes, it will damage the picture.
Is used to make large prints from small negatives. Our piece of film is placed in a carrier that sits at the top of our enlarger. The enlarger head can be moved up or down in combination with different enlarging lenses. This will give us our desired size for our final print. Once the negative image is focused and you're happy with the size you've chosen, a piece of light-sensitive paper is placed underneath and exposed to light and then processed into a positive image. Trays are used to hold your chemistry when developing photographic paper. Each is roughly the same size or slightly larger than the print you're making. The three most common chemicals used in the darkroom are developer, stop bath, and fixer. Developer is what makes the images appear on your photographic paper or film. It's a chemical that converts the silver grains in your film back into metallic silver. Stop bath is quite simple. It stops the development action. Fixer removes all the unused silver from your paper or film, ensuring that it's no longer sensitive to
Black and white photography can remove aspects that can help focus on other characteristics. This photogenic technique was known as a disadvantage because color came out shortly after black and white, but it might be the favorite of most artists. Something important to note about black and white photography is how it was more popular than regular colored photographs in the late 19th century. Color photos also weren't developed enough to capture the same detail that black and white photos could at the time. One of the most famous female photographers is Annie Leibovitz. Annie photographed many famous people and was hired at Rolling Stone magazine. The photo on the right is a picture of Matthew Rolstone, another influential figure at the time. The picture on the left is a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio taken by Annie, and the picture on the right is one of Mick Jagger that was also taken by her. Many female photographers have also made political statements with their pictures. Another circumstance that prepared the way for photography's acceptance for women was the change in art sponsorship. In this video, I'll be showing a clip from the George Eastman Museum.
It's the same value. In order to have color film, you must have black and white film that will record all colors. The sensitizing of emulsions was done by actually adding dyes to the liquid emulsion. So it's called dye sensitizing. Frederick Ives was instrumental in understanding that black and white film had to be dye sensitized in order to get a record from which you could make color images. It's really complicated.
Eastman's museum is connected to Kodak, and today it's called Eastman's Kodak Company. Although digital cameras have made Kodak's film rare today, and this is one of the pictures that I wanted to show for how it's connected to Eastman's museum and the company. Color photography was used by most regular photographs 30 years ago, but also by some artists. An abstract expressionist painting is a style that was a break from political and realistic photographs. In this clip, they developed this technology so anyone could take a photo and send it to the developer to get their photos back. It's just like sending a Fujifilm to a CVS or any pharmacy and they can develop the pictures for you.
The process that really ushered in this entire movement of color was the Kodachrome process. It really begins with the work of Mans and Godowski at the Kodak Research Labs. Chromogenic color prints are made with a gelatin emulsion. It's based on silver, and there are many layers. When the film or the paper is being developed, each layer releases the dye that it needs on the cyan, the yellow, or magenta layer. During the processing, the silver is actually removed, leaving only the color behind. And so you end up with a full color picture that was made with light going into the paper or onto the film simultaneously. It is rocket science.
Using color film, artists use all sorts of techniques. Panoramic photography captures more of something that perhaps wasn't supposed to be part of the capture. It is more of an expanded view of the photograph that the photographer has just shot. Single wide photographs can be gorgeous in color, especially scenery photographs as seen here. This is commonly used in today's digital cameras and phones. Instead of the darkroom, Photoshop is used today. In conclusion, photography isn't just about having fun. It's also about cameras, views, making a memory in one picture, making a statement, and capturing the world. Learning from a different perspective is always an eye-opening experience because change can make something new. Photography can affect a person's emotions entirely because it can be exciting and difficult. This is because photography deserves patience. Without cameras and photography, nobody would be able to look back and remember their astonishing memories that can live forever in a photograph. Going farther into photography, there are sports photographers, wedding photographers, food photographers, calendar photographers, nature photographers, and the list goes on. This is a representation of a photographer's salary and job outlook. As we can see, work experience in photography isn't a requirement, but there are schools that offer photography if I wanted to expand on the topic. These pictures were from my photography account. The one on the left was taken in the Eastern Sierras. The one on the right was taken at the Yosemite trip. I love taking pictures and seeing how they turn out after being edited. I will be attending University of Nevada, Reno, and I will major in business in order to get my bachelor's degree. I would like to pursue my passion for photography later on. Does anyone have any questions for me that I can answer? That I can answer? I don't know. Yes, Jade?
What was your favorite type of camera to study?
Ooh.
What's the most interesting?
Probably the daguerreotype because I thought it was like really cool back then. The look of it just was, eye-opening to me.
How long did the people being photographed have to sit when they were taking the daguerreotype photos?
I think it was an hour or maybe even, I think it was longer actually.
They had to sit still for a really long time.
Yeah. They me and Miss Taylor saw this picture or something and the guy had his face propped to stay in place for the picture.
Wow.
Yes, Israel?
What got you so interested in photography?
Well, there's a couple people. One of them was probably Mackie Dorr, she took a lot of pictures of me and my dad when I was in middle school. And I just kind of got to see how she edited stuff and take pictures of other people. Alden?
I don't know why I'm whispering.
Did I? Really? I was so shaky. I couldn't hear it. It did not seem like it. No, I couldn't hear the nervousness. I was trying to. Okay. I was good to watch myself. I didn't see the photo and I saw you and it's like, oh, I did a lot better than that. It's over with. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Can I just can I just blow my nose real quick? Yeah. I'm kind of sick.
Yeah, you don't have to start for 3 more minutes.
I really hope your videos work. That's a cool picture. That's what I thought.
Yeah, it is cool. Yeah, Esha, that same day that your videos stopped working, is the mic on?
I timed it. We're exactly 15 minutes.
Awesome. What was I yesterday?
I gotta look up when it's back.
Are we even putting all the recording? All right, are you ready?
Ready? Is that yours too?
Okay. All right, this is our final senior thesis presentation of 2022.
You know, best for last, huh?
All right, pass it out.
You know, since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, there is one thing that has not been changed: harsh working conditions and abuse towards workers. Workers were and are being mistreated, underpaid, and almost being held against their will. Much often, employers will only care about their profit and not the actual people working for them. Industrial Revolution. With the rise of factories during the Industrial Revolution, accidents at work happened, and they occurred all over the world. Employers did not care whether their employees were safe or not. Employers only cared about the money if they could save more or do more stuff with it. There are more organizations that are trying to help out employees because employers don't really care about their employees. Next slide. Child labor. It happened from 1760 to 1840. 9 to 10-year-olds would get hurt from textile machines. Employers didn't care what happened to these kids. Kids would get severely hurt. They would get body parts chopped off by these dangerous machines. Kids would be forced to work because their parents couldn't afford to pay rent, with everyone helping them out. Most children working in the Industrial Revolution were boys, and they were earning somewhere around 50 cents an hour to 60 cents a day. The Fair Labor Standards Act. The Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, establishes minimum wage, overtime pay, record keeping, and youth employment standards affecting employees in the private sector and in federal, state, and local governments. Hours worked ordinary include all the time during which an employee is required to be on the employer's promises, on duty or at prescribed workplace. Industrial Revolution. Got a little video for you guys. It's just like,
Time for school. Children often complain about going to school, but what they don't realize is how lucky they are to be getting an education. They could be here, working 10 to 14-hour days, hunched over a machine, making product after product, trying to keep all their fingers, and more importantly, trying to keep their job. This was the fate of many children during the Industrial Revolution in the United States.
as you can see, kids would get abused, almost, if you would say that. They would get abused by being overworked, something like that.
Just push it one more time.
One more time. Oh. Mining accidents. Safety was expensive in coal, and many firms were small and saw little payoff from a lower accident rate. The one source of danger that was declined was mine explosions, which diminished in response. So there was one case a long time ago, which one mine exploded, and it ended up killing 276 men, which led to a federal mine inspection. Work accidents. Cave-ins buried men. An accident with dynamite men blew men apart. Moving trains were always a menace. Back in the old days, work accidents were a common thing. Workers would get killed, injured, or severely hurt, injured too, by by the employers not like having good safety standards. They wouldn't care like what their safety things were and stuff like that. Big construction companies would get immigrants to do the hard job in most places. They would get Mexicans, Italians, and other kinds of people. They would not pay them well and did not care what would happen to them. And they would get blown to pieces by mishandling dynamite or other dangerous equipment. Safety rules. By following these rules, you might not be called out because of the way you're treating your workers and see how they endanger themselves just to get the job done for you. More people should do something about it so that safety standards are met. We need to respect labor standards. Some agreements do not extend to what some of the rules should be. So in most cases, like some of the bigger companies, they don't like follow the safety rules from like other organizations called like OSHA and stuff like that. They don't really like care what happens to them. We got OSHA Standard Act of 1970, the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, OSHA Act, was passed to prevent workers from being killed or otherwise harmed at work. The law requires to provide their employees with working conditions that are free of known dangers. Countless organizations want to help with harsh working conditions. They want to get better pay and overall better safety. But only a few organizations are actually down to do something, such as Cal State OSHA, Cal OSHA, my bad, AFL-CIO, and UFWOO. And OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, is a large regulatory agency of the United States Department of Labor. Chemical hazards. Although pest control has existed as long as agriculture, the nature and extent of pest control with World War II and the advent of chemicals such as DD has been going on for a long time. A lot of like organizations don't do anything about it. They put the rules, but employers don't do anything. Even though there is pest control, it is not enforced as hard as it should be. They just put the rules and regulations, and they don't do anything about it. They don't do anything to enforce it or to help it. We got how to handle chemicals. So like, there's like the charts right there. The do's and don'ts. So there's chemicals manufacturers and importers are required to evaluate the hazards of chemicals they produce or import and prepare labels for and safety data sheets to convert the hazard information to their downstreams. Next one, farm workers. Farm workers all over the world are being abused. Most people don't think that's actually like a hard job, or they shouldn't like be paid the same as other people just because it looks easy. But the truth is that farm workers are hard workers. They should be paid more or just be like treated the same because the jobs they do, they're pretty hard and they're not getting paid enough. Cesar Chavez brought attention to the problems of farm workers. He led marches and strikes. A strike is when a group of people stops working until the conditions are changed. And Cesar also asked many people not to buy stuff from certain companies so that the companies would change the rules. He organized multiple boycotts. Abuse of workers. Some employers treat you like you are their friends. But the reality is that they're just abusing you and don't care about you. They don't care about people's physical or mental health. In other places, you might not be some of the things they say is in other places you might not be able to get paid the same or get the same benefits you get with me. But the reality is that they don't want you to leave. They want you to stay with them and work for them. And they're just going to keep on abusing you. For example, here in our county, people from Mammoth Lakes are being abused. They're not being paid as much as they should, are being almost held against their will, and are being manipulated by their employers so that they can stay and work for them longer. They might be giving some benefits like housing, a bit of a better pay, more hours. It depends on what the employees need. But they're just using you overall. Organizations. There are countless organizations that try to help out the people so that they don't struggle as much and they can live a better life. Messed up. Yeah. There are countless organizations that try to help out the people so that they don't struggle as much with their life and can live happily without fear for their life. So that they can live better knowing that they're safe now. We got riots and strikes. When you try to do something and you put your mind into it, you can achieve almost everything. This is the mentality that Caesar had, or Chavez had. And now that he has helped thousands of people with his strikes and riots, or his marches that he did, he helped thousands of people get better working conditions, better pay, and overall, just a better life. He helped factory workers, farmers, and just other people in general. In conclusion, there are people that are willing to make changes in the world. They try to make a difference so that other people can enjoy their life and live happily. Workers have been abused even before we can remember. A lot of people just deal with it because they have nothing else to do or nowhere else to do. They might their employers might be the only family to say they have in this place. A lot of people just deal with the abuse they suffer from their employers mainly because they don't have anywhere to go, or people that are willing to help them, or people that are willing to help them fight against the company, employers, or anything like that. They should make working conditions safer for everyone so that they can live happily. They can live a happy life without being scared that something might happen to them. My career, I want to become a lawyer. To become a lawyer, there is the post-high school education required to be a lawyer. It generally takes 7 years. This includes 4 years of undergraduate study and 3 years of law school. However, you also need to pass the bar exam. And this could take an extra time, an extra year or two, especially if you don't pass it on the first attempt. You need to go to law school, but in order to get into a law school, some generally require a bachelor's degree before administration. Most law schools will allow you to apply without receiving a degree yet, but it's not likely. Some law schools might not even require any type of degree, but you never know. So for my interview, I interviewed Carson Taylor, Miss Taylor's dad. And he told me that in order to become a lawyer, you need to go to high school, college, and 3 years of JD, juristic doctor. And then you have to pass the bar exam in order to get in. And if you go to law school and you work hard, it might be easier for you to pass the bar exam, and then you can become a lawyer. So universities, got 2 right here. So I'm going to go to a 2-year college and then transfer to a 4-year college. After that, I want to apply to Vermont or Vermont Law School and graduate school, or UCLA, where I can study and pursue my career as a lawyer. My 2-year plan is pretty simple. After high school, I plan to take a year off and work so that I can get money. And after that, I will apply to some colleges so that I can continue with my education. All right, thank you for watching. I'm pretty much done.
Does anyone have a question for Jaziel?
No mames, güey.
What made you want to research about this topic?
So I kind of like suffer from harsh working conditions. No, I'm just kidding. Nah. I've seen like people suffer from harsh working conditions, and like I just say that's not right, you know? So like you always have to do something to help them, you know? Jade?
What opened your mind to thinking about law school?
So I like arguing with people, and I feel like I would be a good lawyer, you know? Emma?
I was just gonna ask, like, what made you choose law?
Alright.
Like, to be a lawyer?
Alright. You good?
That's the same question that Jade said.
Alright.
Oh. So I'm wondering, if you want to get some extra practice, would you consider joining the law? There's a role that needs help.
It depends on the days, you know?
Whatever day you want.
It would be good.
I'll do it, yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate having a nice audience here to really honor their seniors for all their hard work. And I just want to say, so proud of each and every one of you seniors. You guys all had really interesting topics and put a lot of hard work into it. Really appreciate seeing you guys being so brave up here and sharing your knowledge with the rest of the school and community. So thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Godoy, for helping